I'm very pleased to be welcoming Dr. Francesca Bernardi. So warm welcome, Francesca, to the seminar. And I know you've been at the TASC seminars many times and presented with us at online events as well, a number of times. And we're really pleased to have you presenting this seminar titled Brave Space, Sharing Time, Talk and Silences. And just by way of introductions, I'm going to read your bio, Francesca, and then we can get started if that's all right with you. So, Dr. Francesca Bernardi is a creative coach, artist, writer, and disability advocate. She trained in art and design education and art therapy and has worked as a teacher and artist in residence in schools, alternative provision, and further education. She most consistently engages in multidisciplinary research, setting up creative environments for critical participatory work with marginalized communities. Francesca volunteers as an international board member of the Disability Without Abuse Project in Los Angeles, is founding chair of the Antonio Gramsci Society, UK counsellor and fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, and associate member of the Canadian Art Therapy Association. Francesca is a visiting lecturer in childhood studies at the Carnegie School of Education and arts therapies at the University of Roehampton. Francesca is also a translator and a published author as well, because I can see Routledge in that list as well. So thank you, Francesca. It's really great to have you here, kind of holding some group time with us, and over to you for your hellos and introductions.
Thank you. I'm very humbled to be here, and the introduction makes me sound like a very busy person. So now I understand why I'm often tired. That makes great sense. I want to first of all thank everybody for taking the time this evening to join the TASC community, of which I'm really delighted to be a member of. I want to thank Sebastian and John for making this a very safe space in terms of technology and just feeling so welcomed. So thank you. I'm going to begin by sharing just a couple of slides, and these will serve as a sort of guiding aid, if you will, for what I'm going to call probably just a facilitation more than a seminar or workshop. I want this to be a brave space for us to interact with one another's values, and also an opportunity to trouble this idea that we might have to feel a sense of belonging to activate our task purpose, this idea that therapy and social change can happen together. So just troubling our role so that we can bring the best we can to our profession and our community, both task and any other meaning we want to associate with the word community. I was asked by Mick to come to this space with this intention, with this talk this evening, as a way of providing a pattern or a mode of facilitation so that we can make the most of our time together. And that might be today or any sort of other community spaces that we may share in the future, or that you may facilitate in the future, if you find some of these ideas helpful and fruitful and generative in some way. And the reason I've titled this Brave Space is because we often come together in spaces virtually or in real community spaces. And sometimes we forget the conditions that we create either elicit braveness or sort of oppress that bravery. And we need to be very mindful of the space that we create so that we can make the most of the brave person that each one of us is and the brave community that each of us can contribute to. Thank you, Michelle. So I hope this means feeling both empowered, but also feeling a sense that we are equals in this space. And everybody, every one of us can contribute from our life course. This is not about titles. This is not about the paid work that we do. This is about our values and our esteem of our own values and how we can put them to work for the work that really matters, which sometimes is not the work we are paid for, in other words. So important to sort of take stock of that too. We'll be sharing time, but also talk and silences. So when we start the activity that we will be sharing, if you don't want to talk, your silence will contribute to this space and to this community, just as your words could. So welcome the silences, respect the silences, and appreciate that taking pause is helpful as much as words can be helpful to us as a community and as individuals. So if you need to pass to the next person without contributing in words, know that your pause and your silence is equally welcomed and equally beneficial to you and to the group. We can all take stock of that moment of quiet, and we can make something from that, whether it's thinking or just respecting that moment of pause. It's important to include that in our communication together. So the space is about committing to courage and committing to humility. We come here as equals and we come here organically. So you may say things you weren't expecting to say. You may receive ideas that you weren't expecting to be gifted this evening. Everything will contribute to something different to how you came into the space. And whether you are a therapist, a coach, a social activist, in any guise in your role, I hope that this will be a good moment for you to receive. So be a receiver and know that the impact of this evening is inherently ethical. So we have to respect one another. That doesn't mean agreeing with one another, but it just means taking stock of someone else's perspective. It also means taking stock of our own reflection on someone else's perspective. And it's the merging, it's that fabric of different threads of experience that comes together in this space that we must hold as our liveliness, our brave liveliness, and our creative contribution or reception. So it's important to be humble. Humility is at the heart of this communication. And it's about cultivating meaningful connection with others, but also being authentically connected to ourselves. So a quote here from one of my inspiring heroes, Brené Brown. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. So I hope you will find that this is a space without judgment, where you can feel seen and heard, and for whatever you contribute, including the pauses, you will be valued in this space. So the process is a beginning, a processing, and an ending. Or in other words, it's going to be a check-in, restore and activate. So restore some of your thinking that perhaps lay dormant in the back of your mind through the busyness of daily occurrences. Restore the true values that bring you here and activate them. That might be through pausing or through sharing a thought. What it isn't is we're not responding to somebody else's thought or idea. We're bringing our gift to the group, whatever that may be. We're bringing our thinking to the group. So you're not obliged or not necessarily encouraged to respond to others' thinking, but process that thinking in your own space, in your inner space, and activate some of your thinking that perhaps sometimes doesn't have a space to be heard and seen. And then we will do a checkout. So I want this space to be brave, and therefore we're going to pause the recording at this point. So there's no sense of scrutiny, there's no sense of surveillance of any sort, even if that, of course, is never the intention when we record activities or workshops. But it is also important for this process to be genuine and authentic. So we're going to pause the recording as a way of just being in the space together. We'll start with the first round, and the question is going to be, what do you love about what you do? We so often get asked, what do you do? And people are thinking economics. They're thinking, what's your work? How much you get paid for it? What does it do for you in terms of status, social status? We're thinking differently here this evening. We are thinking about, what do you love about what you do? And perhaps think through a value lead. What are the values that you bring to the work that you do? And I want to be quite loose with the meaning of work, because it might be work that you do for a community as a volunteer. It might not be your main source of income. So you don't need to associate it necessarily with income. This is about your work, or as I like to call it, the work. What do you do that contributes to society? Because I'm sure that it does. So that's going to be round one. In round two, we'll contribute something that's come up for us. And round three, we'll do a checkout, which is based on an appreciation. So at this point, I'm going to leave the slide up for a moment just so that you can digest that question. What do you love about what you do? Now, there are many of us here this evening. So what I'm going to suggest is, if you click on participants, you should be able to see a list of names. And I'm going to ask you to kindly pass to the person after you. Now, it's an alphabetical order, so it's a bit like being back at school, and the person beginning with A feels quite tentative and under pressure. But I just want to highlight that the first person in the list does not have to be the starting person. So anyone can start, so long as you pass to the person whose name is below on the list. Okay, so anybody can start. Just to give an example, if Brian were to start, then you would be handing over to Christina. The reason I'm inviting you to do this is, first of all, you won't be interrupted, because it will be your time until you hand over. And the second reason, it's important to negotiate time and space that we share together. Be mindful of the numbers here today. So there's 32 of us. We only have 40 minutes for 3 rounds, and we will get through all rounds and everybody will contribute. Even if it is, I'm taking a pause, I'm going to hand over to the next person. That's very, very important. So without further ado, because timing...
That'll be lovely, thank you.
So this quote refers to culture, but I want you to sort of change that word to anything that fits with you and your person, yourself, your civic person, your social contributing person, the person that makes a difference with small gestures every day, every moment of the day. Culture is a coming to terms with one's own personality. It is the attainment of a higher awareness, with the aid of which one succeeds in understanding one's own historical value, one's own function in life, one's own rights and obligations. And we can just let that simmer. And it's a quote from Antonio Gramsci, which you may know or be interested in reading. I thank all of you for your authenticity, for your contributions, and for making this space a space for self-reflection and inadvertently for community reflection. So I thank you for that. Thank you, John, for supporting the space, and thank you, Sebastian, for supporting the tech. Over to you, John. Thank you.
Well, thank you to Francesca for just a beautiful hour together. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate you bringing all of that and that 1 hour time frame as well. So thank you. And thank you, Sebastian, for being really responsive around the tech. I think it makes such a difference. So we're going to pause now. I think we're going to turn off the recording as well, because we're going to take a 5-minute pause, enough time to have a little screen break, put the kettle on if we want to, and then we'll have to 1/2 for our Therapy and Social Change Network community time. So everybody is very welcome to stay and hang out with us for a little bit longer. And if you're feeling like that's just been the perfect amount of time for you, you're also welcome to kind of take your leave and go on with your Friday. So really, please choose what's right for you. You're very welcome to stay, and if you want to finish for now, that's also absolutely fine. So let's take those 5 minutes back about 8 minutes past, I think, and then we'll have our community time. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.